Transphobia. Ooh, I've got a sweetie that really wants to show up on lives, and I'm like their biggest fucking cheerleader about it. And as I was giving them advice and support and encouragement and love to encourage them to show up for live videos, I was kind of turning it around and being like, oh, right, there are ways in which I want to show up here that I'm scared still. So I've got one for you. So talking about transphobia is something that I talk about a lot, and I don't usually talk about on here. So I'm going to try and do that a little bit in a safe enough way so I can titrate myself into doing more of it, hopefully, because it's something that I got a lot to say about, and I'd love to be in conversation rather than just talking. So if you have questions or comments, and you can be curious about it and open about it, then let's dialogue. So I had a situation recently that I talked about on another live where I went to a lesbian party, and it felt safe enough but not comfortable by any stretch of the imagination. My facial hair was a little more full. I just shaved, so. But I saw this morning that there's a lesbian barbecue coming up, and I was like, ooh, I want to go to that. That'll be much better than a dance party where everyone's kind of with their buddies and not talking to strangers. Like, I'd much rather go to a barbecue where there's opportunity to chat and connect and actually have dialogue. So rather than people just looking at me and talking about me over the music and I can't hear them, that's awkward. So I saw this lesbian barbecue, and then I realized, oh shit, I'm going to be out of town. I'm going to be in New York for training. So hopefully they'll do another one later this summer. And not an hour later, somebody I really enjoy reached out to me and was like, hey, we haven't really seen each other much. Like, do you want to go to this lesbian barbecue with me? And in fact, do you identify it in a way that this question makes sense? So I appreciated both approaches. And I had noted that, like, oh, I saw this. And first of all, I'm going to be out of town. But second of all, I got too shy. Because I don't yet feel comfortable in this masculine presenting body to show up to lesbian spaces, even if I know I belong in those spaces. But showing up by myself, like I typically would in the past, I would just show up to such a thing by myself. But this one I was like, no, I'm going to need a little crew. I'm going to need a little support. And I actually don't know a lot of folks that might want to go to this. So I guess maybe it works out I'm out of town. But I'm determined to find my way back to that comfort. So I put an earmark in it. So when my friend asked me, I was like, geez, can we put a rain check? Like, next time there's a lesbian barbecue, can I go with you? Definitely, please. I would love that. And then I noted that I identify deeply with dykeness, and by extension, the term lesbian. It's deeply shaped my life, both of these terms, both of these identities. I feel most aligned with the term rheostat. I don't have a personal preference for pronouns. It's more fun for me to see what other people assume. It's also boring because people are not terribly imaginative and don't like to take risks because they're scared. Oh well, but I love it when people do. And I usually just default to they, them because it's most likely to prompt a conversation, which is really what I'm after. So I told this person that my experience at the lesbian dance party, had been safe, but not comfortable. And so I'd like to kind of go in a group. And their response was fascinating to me because she jumped right to transphobia, and just said, "Oh, I assume that's transphobia." And then I got a list, which I often get from people, and this kind of protectiveness, which I appreciate protectiveness. I do want to say that, but the like fuck turfs and Swerfs and transphobic inclusivity, all about it, and zero tolerance for intolerance. And I just looked at it and I was like, please don't throw that at my feet. Like, you don't know that that's my political stance. I understand it's yours, and I understand that I'm supposed to be waist deep in those waters, if not over my head, but I'm not. Um, it's not my route. So I just have such a like, not about this person, but about this kind of like reactionary protective response. Um, it feels like virtue signaling to me, that kind of protectiveness, to just immediately go to intolerance for intolerance, zero tolerance for intolerance. That's intolerance for intolerance. So we're both at intolerance, and how are we going to get anywhere? No, thank you. I don't want to take that route. Not my path. And I appreciate its presence, and that is the path for other people, because I think that those things need to be said. And I think that some of us want to approach it differently also. So to me, I think it's just mere ignorance. I believe, I choose to believe that in a lesbian environment, when I'm there, especially capital L lesbian, not my like dyke lesbian spaces, which I feel much safer in, and much more easily comfortable, but like capital L lesbian, which I think of as tends to live a less queer, politically queer, radical lifestyle, let's say. And these are general, broad, sweeping assumptions. Give me a lot of space for that, please. But when I'm in those spaces and people are clearly uncomfortable with me, I just think that it's mere ignorance, and I see it as protective reaction. And as I said, I felt safe enough and not comfortable, so I choose to think that's the best I can expect from capital L spaces at this moment in this particular city. Like, context makes a difference. When I was back in San Francisco, I wouldn't have expected the same responses as I get here. Like, the context, environment, culture has a huge impact here. And I want to name that most people will assume that I am trans femme, and that I'm not doing it right, or I'm refusing to conform to femininity because I have facial hair, or I'm refusing to really embrace femaleness. All these kind of things, that she's wanting to be a woman but refusing to shave. What the fuck is that? Like, I don't see that as transphobia. I choose not to. I could write that story. I choose to see it as ignorance and protectiveness. Um, There's so many reasons for women to feel fucking protective. Yes, be protective. Please, more of you be protective. I love that. Like, I appreciate that. And can we do it without dehumanizing other people? Intolerance for intolerance. As I said, it's not going to get us anywhere. So, how do we maintain humanity in that protectiveness? It doesn't feel hostile to me, but it feels guarded. It feels unsure. It's mixed with fearful curiosity. I can see it in their faces. And desire. I can see desire too. And when they've had a couple of drinks and it's later into the night, I get to actually feel that desire on my body sometimes, touching me. Like, it's just so much more nuanced and complicated than mere transphobia. Um, they're fearful to approach me most of the time. And I really have an embodied, felt, lived experience as a woman of fear of men, and fear of men taking, holding, controlling women's freedoms, spaces, safety. And I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that I have some compassion for where that comes from. I think a barbecue environment would be great because I get to chat with people. You know, somebody's kind of obviously talking about me. I can walk over and sit down and say hi. You know, I don't feel comfortable enough doing that in a bar with alcohol flowing and who the fuck else knows what. Like, that's not the environment for me to do that political work. But just as much of as I have a lot of compassion for how they got there, we got there, I got there, I have very little fucks to give for those that cling to their assumptions and don't bother to ask. So I want to name that too. Like, I'm holding both of those things, where I've got this compassion, like, yeah, I see your protectiveness. I can understand your protectiveness. I see your weariness and your unsuredness. And I see the way the world has shaped you to say, oh, that's not how we do female, just as you're doing female differently. Like, thank you for that political action. And what I'm doing is merely an extension. And I understand how you're not yet seeing that. So, and as I said, I have very little fucks to give for people who want to cling to ignorance in that way and don't bother to ask. Like, I'm not going to be upset by that. You do not get that much energy from me. Next, like, I'm just here to connect with the folks that are or want to be allies, because that's where I actually can have an impact, and then trust that that will spread. So I know that my presence models alternative forms of femininity, and I do trust and deeply believe that as lesbians, even if they can't see my version of femininity, they know and understand the political need and desire to do female differently. So they are such a high potential to be my ally. That's where I'm going to put some work if they want to meet me in that work, and not if they don't. But I'm certainly going to put more energy there than a lot of other people that haven't even gotten that far. So, yeah, doing woman differently from every direction. Oh, fuck me. I know that when I was a teenager trying to figure out classic femininity, like, oh, I'm supposed to be a good little girl from the South, and it just felt like costumery. Oh, I just happened to be wearing my gender as a drag shirt. That was kind of funny. But it just felt like costumery in a way that I didn't get to choose and I didn't like, and it wasn't fun. And I don't know, I figured out my fucking way to it enough that it didn't feel awful. It just felt uncomfortable. And then a lot of fucking trauma, and I presented male. And mostly for a sense of fucking safety in my body. Oh, yeah. And it felt empowering and it felt comfortable, and it didn't feel like a costume. And it was a mix of many things. It's no simple storyline there. Like, it was many confluencing factors, but I walked away from that fucking angry that I felt so much safer as a man than as a woman. I walked away really pissed about it and went to find my way back to femininity. Like, no, let me do female my own motherfucking way, not the way I've been taught or told or shown. I had a lot of very caring, loving Black studs in Georgia and older feminist lesbians from the National Organization for Women in Boston, and gay men in LA, and leather dykes in San Francisco model other ways to be feminine for me. And I found my way eventually into a femininity that I love and adore and continue to play with and continue to change. And because I can, because these are options, because we choose, because it's my body. Oh, this is one iteration of many that have come before, and I am confident many that will come again. So, yeah. Anyway, thoughts on how we might choose to story, how other people judge us um, based on their ignorance. Yeah. So I'm not down for zero tolerance for intolerance. Um, somebody has to have some tolerance somewhere at some point for us to, as Kai Chang would say, choose love. So I'm going to go in that direction. For those who want to come towards love, I'm going to follow my sisters, my Black and trans sisters, and go that way. I hope y'all will come. So hopefully I might see you out at some lesbian event this summer. Would certainly love to connect. So if you see something you want to go to and you got a little group, I want to join. So, all right. Mwah. Love y'all. Bye.